Madam President, there are some days recently when I kind of wonder why we even show up to the Senate any longer. This job is not what it used to be. When I get the chance to read about the history of the Senate, I read about these things called debates that we used to have on the floor of the Senate. I read about something called an amendment, which apparently is a way that an individual senator calls up a proposal or an initiative, puts it on the floor for an up or down vote. Those things don't really happen anymore here in the United States Senate. We don't have open-ended debates on the big policies of the day. I get it. When Republicans control the Senate, they control the agenda. When Democrats control the Senate, they control the agenda. But at the very least, I would have hoped that the Senate majority, now in Republican hands, would put their policy initiatives before the Senate so we could have an open debate. That doesn't happen any longer. All we seem to be doing these days is voting on judges. Now, that's a really important function of the United States Senate, and I'm glad we're doing it. But today, we are going to do something truly exceptional, which causes me once again to wonder what my job is here and to feel a little bit of sadness as to how it has changed and how much less substantive the input of each individual senator is into the direction of this country. What we are going to do here today is, for the first time in the history of blue slips, we are going to vote and, I assume, confirm a judge that didn't get one blue slip from either of the home state senators from which that judge comes from and is going to serve. This has never happened before, and yet today we will vote on Eric Miller's nomination to be a judge on the Ninth Circuit from Washington. He's 43 years old, so he's going to be there for an awful long time. And Eric Miller did not get a blue slip from either of Washington's senators. Let me say that again. That's never happened before in the Senate. And in fact, the last time that a judge was confirmed without both blue slips was in 1989. That's the last time before this Congress that any senator, that any judge was confirmed without both blue slips. And in that instance, it was a Democratic chairman of the Judiciary Committee who was confirming a judge over the objection of another Democrat. This is very different. This is two Democratic senators from Washington, neither of them returning a blue slip on Eric Miller, and yet the majority has decided to go ahead and proceed with this confirmation. This is a serious break with precedent. The last time Democrats controlled the United States Senate, Chairman Leahy was the head of the Judiciary Committee, and he did not hold a single hearing on an Obama nominee who did not have two blue slips. Didn't hold a single hearing. Even when there were exceptional circumstances. There was one time when senators initially returned the blue slips, but later rescinded them. Those were two Republican senators, submitted them, rescinded them, did not go forward with the nominee. There was another circumstance in which senators had recommended a nominee for the district court, but then refused to submit blue slips when that judge was elevated to the appellate court. Once again, Senator Leahy honored that precedent. Now, Republicans have already taken advantage of Senator Leahy's decision to uphold precedent. I'll just give you a couple examples. In the Seventh Circuit, Michael Brennan was confirmed for a seat that had been held open by Republicans since 2010. So, had Chairman Leahy decided to move forward without blue slips, That 7th Circuit seat could have been filled, but because he upheld tradition, it was left open, filled by Republicans. Similarly, a district seat in South Carolina. Marvin Quattlebaum was confirmed in a seat that had been held open by Republicans, again, since 2013. And so Republicans have already taken advantage of the fact that Democrats upheld the blue slip precedent, but now they're taking it a step further. Now, in the past, when Republicans have changed the rules here, as they did on the number of votes required to elevate a judge to the Supreme Court, they claimed it was because Democrats started it. Now, I don't agree with that rationale. If you found the change for district court nominees so objectionable, I'm not sure why you decide to go further, but there is no excuse of that kind here. This is just a brash power grab because there is no claim that Democrats, when they were in the majority, violated the blue slip principle. This is a fresh violation of tradition here in the Senate. And there is a reason why we give deference to home state senators. Because in these states and in these districts, there are particular issues that are important to their constituents, that may be unique to their area, in which they have more knowledge than the rest of us do. That is why one of the reasons that Senators Murray and Cantwell are so concerned about this nominee is due to his extremist views on the issue of tribal sovereignty, which is a very big deal in the state of Washington. And the idea that they are going to have somebody sitting in the Ninth Circuit who has these extreme views on limiting the rights of tribes is of great concern to their constituents. That is why traditionally we have allowed for individual senators to have that kind of voice and that kind of say, no longer. And so I would just hope that my Republican friends understand how this works. Once the rule is gone, once the tradition is gone, listen, I'm a relatively junior senator here, so I don't want to speak for those that are going to be the chairman and ranking members of committees in the future, but I would imagine it's not coming back. I would imagine that once we get through today and Republicans have decided that individual senators no longer have any say in who's appointed to their circuit courts unless they happen to be a member of the majority party, that horse has fully run out of the barn and across the field. And I don't know that that's a good thing for this body, because it is just another hit. It is just another assault on the traditions of this place in which we used to try to work things out together, in which we used to honor the role of individual senators to have some say over what happened in their own states and their own regions. I do sometimes wonder why we all keep on showing up back here. If we don't really debate legislation like we used to, if we don't get to offer amendments anymore, and if we don't have any say any longer in the judges that are appointed at our states and our districts. And this is just another day that makes me question that as well. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor.